The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine.
The one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
I'm three-time national wrestling writer and broadcaster of the year, Jason Bryant, and I'll bring you news, reviews, previews, and interviews with the most notable names and personalities in wrestling. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app by logging on to matttalkonline.com/listen. Short Time is sponsored by Flips Wrestling. Share your attitude and be heard at flipswrestling.com. Now it's time, because you've always got time for Short Time. Episode 270 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Going down the road a ways, up 94 to a place that I love to call home in the summer. It's Fargo, North Dakota. Today speaking with a man who will no longer be calling that place home for much longer, Manny Rivera, now the new head wrestling coach at CSU Bakersfield. First of all, Manny, congratulations and welcome to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
So I know this has got to be really, really hard for you to sell your family. But like, you know, we're going to have to leave these great North Dakota winters to go to Southern California. I know that's really, really hard. But how excited are you to be going back to California?
Extremely excited. I've been away for quite a while now, probably close to 15 years or whatever it is now. But it's going to be great getting back to California, getting close to family, friends, and getting back into that California wrestling community.
You spent the last couple of years at North Dakota State with one of your former teammates at Minnesota, Roger Kish. And what have you learned in the last 5 years spending time? I mean, you wrestled in the Big Ten. You were an assistant at Virginia in the ACC, then coming to a program that was part of the Western Wrestling Conference before it moved into the Big 12. I mean, you've kind of seen the gamut of resources that programs have. Then you're going to Bakersfield, which is in another field entirely when it comes to comparative situations. But what did you learn about being a wrestling coach and dealing with facilities and resources at North Dakota State that you may not have realized coming from Minnesota or Virginia?
I think obviously you gain some perspective everywhere you go, and you learn things here and there and pick up things along the way. But, NDSU is a pretty unique place. A lot of supporters here, it's really the face of athletics in the state. Small state, no professional sports, things like that. But it's pretty unique. Something I was able to learn a lot, really. Well, what it boiled down to is I came out here with Roger, and he was a pretty young coach. And I think we just both learned a lot along the way. He was pretty young, learning a lot of things, and really, entrusted a lot of responsibility on me, and, it really forced me to grow as a coach and learn a lot. So, that's kind of one of the things that's really benefited me being at North Dakota State here the last 5 years.
There's a championship culture at North Dakota State, whether it goes back to Bucky Maughan winning Division II titles as the head coach there, or the recent success of the football championship subdivision national champions, four national titles, 4 or 5. I don't even know how many it is. It's been a lot from the football program. What is it? Yeah. What is it about the football program and that aspect on campus that maybe has been infectious for all the programs around?
It really creates that big time college athletics atmosphere. You've probably never been to a football game, but I mean, it's wild.
I was so close one year. I was very close, but some team that was my alma mater couldn't hold a 21-point fourth quarter lead. But that's another story entirely.
I actually remember that, but no, it's wild. I mean, the dome probably seats close to 20,000. It sells out. It has sold out probably for about the last 5 seasons. Every game, every home game. And on top of that, you got so many other people just tailgating outside, and, you really see the whole community come on and support, football and all the other athletics, when they have a big event. So it's more than you would think, little North Dakota State way up there, but what it boils down to is the fans are there to support.
I mean, you got to think the football team and the junior nationals have helped build that patio, that second level patio at the Buffalo Wild Wings across the street.
Yeah, that's correct.
So let's get back into your background a little bit. Coming out of California, Rosemead is basically just east of Los Angeles. I guess you could consider it a suburb, but I don't know. Everything is kind of like L.A. out there, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the easy way to say it for people who don't know all the little cities in there. And I say little, that's pretty relative, but I grew up in El Monte, just right next to Rosemead, and graduated from Rosemead High School. So, it's probably less than 20 miles from downtown LA, and, you might call it a suburb, but that's where, I grew up wrestling, San Gabriel Valley.
So are you a Dodgers fan or an Angels fan? I got to know this.
Oh, that's easy. Dodgers all the way.
All right. End of interview.
Angels isn't even an option. They're not even from L.A.
Well, that is very true. But I will. Thing is, they haven't been from L.A. in a long, long time. That's why, as an Angels fan, I will always refer to them as the California Angels. None of this Anaheim, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim crap. When they won the World Series, it was the California Angels. So that's my out. I'm not an L.A. guy. I'm a California Angels guy.
Yeah, that was kind of goofy. I don't think anyone was happy when they changed that name up.
At least they went back to the Halo logo. I mean, the years they had that wing, that was just embarrassing. I mean, Jim Edmonds out there making great plays in the outfield with a freaking wing on his A. I mean, come on. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Very sore subject as an Angels fan. But anyway, we're coming through California. I remember the first time I heard of Manny Rivera, and it was 2003. There was a friend of mine wrestling in the National High School Wrestling Finals. His name was Brandon Hardy. He was from Western Branch, Virginia. And I'm going through looking at the brackets. I'm like, who the hell is Manuel Rivera? And I'm looking at some of the names in the brackets. I'm like, okay, the one name that jumped out at me right off the bat at Senior Nationals, you wrestle a guy that's going to be your future teammate at Minnesota, Mac Ryder. And going into that Senior Nationals, you were third in the high school state championships. Then you go into Senior Nationals. You're not even ranked by Wrestling USA Magazine, and seniors in the top 20 at the weight class. You go out and win it. How big of this was it for you to be like, all right, you guys don't know anything about California. I'm going to go out here and win this thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, really, it's a springboard for me to wrestle in college, and it really got me recruited out to Minnesota and got recruited by a lot of teams. And, that's one of the things that makes California pretty special that, like you said, I was placed in the state tournament once and, didn't win it. Went out there, I was unranked, undefeated in the tournament, but I always kind of felt that, that's how strong California wrestling is. It didn't matter. I can go out and wrestle guys who are highly ranked in the country, multiple state titles and all that. And, I always thought I could win. Didn't matter. So, just with that mentality, I was able to pick off a lot of guys that were ranked really high, guys that were big recruits, guys with a ton of credentials, and ultimately won the tournament. And I guess that was kind of the first time I had some national notoriety.
So how quickly afterwards was Minnesota on you? Were they on you beforehand, and then you beat Ryder, who was a four-time state champ out of Don Bosco in Iowa and one of the top-ranked guys in the country? I mean, when did J-Rob and staff be like, hey, wait a minute? How quickly did that conversation start?
It was pretty quick. We were already familiar. I'd been at Jay Robinson camps for years, so we were familiar. They knew who I was. But more of the recruiting part started, it was immediately after that. And, and that was everyone knows them and a handful of other schools.
So I'm looking through this bracket, and that was kind of like 03 was kind of like the last year Senior Nationals was really, really hammered. But you look through, you beat Ryder, you beat Michael Arias, who wrestled at the Citadel. You beat Gabe Flores, who had beaten you in the state semifinals. I mean, let's talk about that. The high school nationals, you get a rematch, and you win the guy who knocked you out of the chance to win a state title. Yeah,
that was interesting because you know what? I know Gabe was ranked high in the country at that time, and that's part of what gave me a lot of confidence that I'd wrestled him before, and I was right there with him, and I had a chance to beat him early at the state tournament. I knew he was one of the best guys in the country, and I knew I was right there. So going into the match, I'd lost to him before in a tight match, and I knew I could turn it around, and just wrestled well, pulled it off, and got myself into the finals from there.
And you're unranked at this whole time. I'm looking through these names, and here's just some of the ranked names that were in that bracket that did not win it. Steve Ramata was actually wrestled at Virginia and was a national qualifier at Chattanooga. Tyler McCormick wrestled at Missouri. Zach Conliff wrestled at Ryder. Keith Dickey wrestled at Cornell. Andy LaCroix was ranked. He was a D3 All-American at Roger Williams. Mike Tatunjian wrestled Wagner. Colin Cudd, Drew Forshee, Matt Easter, Edgy Osha. I mean, all those guys are ranked. And Manny Rivera is not, and you come out on the top of this. And, you know, when you look at a tournament like that, how much do you think that tournament, that performance really shaped the rest of your wrestling career, whether it be athletically or coaching-wise?
It was definitely a catapult. I mean, it gave me the opportunity to wrestle at Minnesota, which, you know, has been such a great program. And, you know, they were coming off of, you know, 3 national titles around that time, and, you know, obviously went on to win another title there. And, you know, gave me that opportunity to go there. You know, I don't know if I don't win, I don't know if I get that opportunity, right? So, I mean, it really got me into college wrestling on the highest level.
What was that experience like when you got to Minnesota and you know, you're coming into that experience? I mean, you ended your career as an All-American and qualified for the tournament a couple times, but when you get into that room for the first time, I mean, was it what you expected coming from California? I mean, how much of a shock was it, or how much did you adapt quickly to the pressure and the rigors of Division I wrestling?
You know, I think a blessing in disguise for me was that I was pretty ignorant going in. I just went out there, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out and wrestle at Minnesota. This should be great. Didn't really think too much about it, and that's just what I was going to do. And, you know, obviously when I got there, it was an eye-opener to get into a room that tough. And, you know, I went from maybe having a couple tough matches every couple months to, you know, every day was a battle. And, you know, I think that's pretty universal when you get to a college room. But, I mean, it was definitely an eye-opener to realize, you know, just how much depth and how tough guys are once you get in there.
Which guy made it the toughest for you your freshman year? I mean, who was the one guy in the room you just could not score on?
Oh, we had so many older guys in there that, I mean, there's probably too many names to list, but it was right around the 2004 Olympic year, so there was a lot of guys that had just graduated that were still in that room training, and I mean, there was an abundance of guys that really just could hammer me at any moment. So it wasn't maybe just one guy, but it was probably that crew of older guys that was just like, oh man, that's going to be a tough day if I end up with one of those guys. And you know, guys like Jared Lawrence were there training, Ryan Lewis, Leroy Vega. Actually, Doug Schwab was in Minneapolis at the time too, and you know, those guys were all just unbelievable.
Yeah. Hey, Rivera, go out there and wrestle with Lawrence, okay? Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, as long, I mean, that guy's like 6'12". I mean, you got to wrestle a guy that type of length. And yeah, anyway. So moving into the lineup, when you finally broke through and get that opportunity to wrestle the national championships, how much did it take for you to improve to be able to compete at that level from when you first stepped on campus as a high school national champion? And one of those things is like, hey, just because you're a national champion, there's still room to adjust. You can't just come in and hit the ground running most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, a few things that maybe delayed me really getting in there and starting to make an impact was, you know, I was pretty young when I graduated high school, and it was almost like I got there and almost had to start over, you know. And I got to college. I was only 17 years old. I was a young guy, and, you know, I had teammates that were, you know, my grade came in with me, but they almost had 2 years on me. So I think that maturity played a part. But after, you know, you get through that redshirt year and you kind of figure out what it's all about. And, you know, I spent the next year trying to find my way into the lineup, and I did it. And then finally, you know, after a couple of years, I was able to really, you know, I ended up going up a weight class because I started at 33. My body seemed to mature. I got a lot stronger. And, you know, once kind of that maturity and that strength came in, I really felt that was a big difference.
Now, your last 2 years, you spent a lot of your career in the top 10, top 5 in the rankings. You came into the NCAA championships as a top 5 seed to both years. Fourth, you know, in 07, it's kind of weird. You open up your tournament with a guy from Bakersfield. It's where you end up going. And then it's, you know, it's ended in the blood round. And talk about that, how dramatic that is, that experience when you get there, you lose to a guy in the quarterfinals who's not supposed to be there. You know, you're kind of like, okay, this draw is clearing out. You lose the quarters, then you come right back in that blood round. I mean, how brutal is that round of 12 to sit there and be like, I'm this close to placing? I mean, what's the nerves like in that situation?
Yeah, it was, it was a great year for me. It's one of the years I feel I wrestled just, some of the best wrestling I've ever done was that junior year. And, I had a good year. I went undefeated throughout the year and, ended up taking my first loss at the Big Ten tournament. So, I came in and, I think I might have been ranked in 1 or 2 at the time going into the postseason. And, obviously my goal was to win the whole tournament. So when you kind of get knocked off, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to describe. I mean, guys who've been there know what it's like. And, coming right back was really tough. And, I wasn't able to pull it off that year. But, it was probably one of the hardest times I've gone through as a wrestler.
Now, the next year, it's California just seems to dot your career, whether it's yourself or your opponents. Get to the quarterfinal. You lose to Nathan Morgan, a California guy who won the weight class when you were in as senior. And then the blood round, the guy you've got to beat to earn All-American honors, another California guy, Chris Druin, who was from Poway and then wrestled at Arizona State. I mean, these California guys just seem to get in your way everywhere, man.
Yeah. Nathan Morgan, actually a Bakersfield High School guy. So that's kind of interesting too. But, no, I think there's probably, if you look through that bracket, there's probably a couple other California guys in that weight class that wrestled and did well. I know a guy in the final, Chad Mendez, he was a California guy as well. And, and just teams that around that weight class, there was just a lot of talented guys. So, it just goes to show the depth that California has.
You've set this one up perfectly, Manny, because we're talking about the depth of California. Now you're heading in to your first head coaching job at CSU Bakersfield. And Mike Mendoza had been there as an alum, took over after the late TJ Kerr. The program was cut. It was brought back. Mike's gone to take over the reins at Boise State. And I just got to say, what was it about this job that was enticing you to be like, you know what? I'm going to make a run for my first coaching job here at Bakersfield.
Aside from all the obvious things like getting closer to home and, that's obviously a great area to recruit and all that. As I was going through the interview process, I really felt the support from the community, from the alumni, from supporters, from donors, from the administration. Once I saw how much people really, really, really care, and I think there's probably a misconception about that, but people care, and they care a lot about that program, and it's something people have invested into and will continue to invest to. And, once I got that sense of this means a lot to people and people really want this place to be successful, that's what really was like, all right, I got to go there. I got to do this.
And based on what I've heard, based on conversations with Coach Mendoza and some alumni and some people close to the program, fundraising is going to be a key part of this. And how much experience, based on your career at Minnesota, University of Virginia, and North Dakota State, do you have with fundraising? And do you believe that you're going to be a natural fit for this type of thing?
I've done a little bit here and there, but to be honest, it's not like, something I've ever been the point person on or in charge of, but I'm familiar. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is just people skills, communication, and really being able to share your vision with people who want to support the program and giving them a product that they would want to invest in. And, it is a big piece to the program, but it's obviously not something that I feel I can accomplish, obviously. So, that's probably basically what I can answer with.
And the coaching landscape just got a little tougher. You got a new coach at Cal Poly, John Cerritos. You got Fresno State hiring Troy Steiner. Now you at CSU Bakersfield. So the Division I landscape in the last 3 months has changed dramatically within the state of California. And that's going to make things a little more difficult in terms of recruiting. But how challenging do you think this is going to be to compete with, Cerritos likes to hustle. You've seen that wherever he's been at. Troy Steiner has had good teams up at Oregon State as assistant now, and his first coach. I mean, Fresno's already attracting kids, but this is going to be a challenge. What do you like about it?
Definitely. I know all those guys are competitors. They all want to win, and it's no different, I think, for any coach, and especially myself. I'm not going to say I'm too concerned that, exactly what they're going to do. I'm going to worry about, what we're going to do and the guys we're going to go after and the guys we're going to get. Obviously, we're probably going to have a lot of crossover on the guys we recruit, but, at the end of the day, that's my job to show guys that Cal State Bakersfield is the place for them, and it is the best place for them. So, hopefully that's something that I can start working on here sooner rather than later, and it's something I'm looking forward to doing.
As far as the alumni involvement goes in reaching out to the community of high school coaches, yes, you're from California, but as you said, it's been about, a decade and a half since you've been back. How quickly are you going to have to get back on the horse and meeting people, or was this something that you had those connections from high school that you had just carried with you through coaching?
Yeah, actually, it's been pretty fortunate. I started to realize here as the news broke, I started getting a lot of calls and messages. And, one of the nice things is now all those guys that I wrestled with and knew from high school, they're all coaching somewhere. So that's pretty nice. It's guys I already know and, guys that I already have a connection with. So, there'll be some reconnecting and some reaching out. Obviously don't know everyone out there, but I already have a good foundation in place of people that are coaching and friends who are in coaching, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable about it.
Say I'm a Bakersfield alum and you're trying to reach out and get me involved in the program. What's one of the first things you're going to say whether it's on the phone or a handshake a meeting? I mean, how are you going to try to get the alumni more engaged with the program, more so than they already are?
Well, I know a lot of them are already involved, and they're extremely excited, and I've had the chance to connect with a lot of those guys already, and to be honest, it's almost been the opposite way. Those guys are excited, and they're getting me more excited, and, I don't know if I would have to do a ton. I think they're very involved. They really are, and they're very excited about the program, and they believe in the program, and, there's a lot of history there. And I'm very familiar with the history. Growing up in California, I know how tough Bakersfield has been. So there's a lot of people who really believe in that program, and getting them excited won't be too tough. I think, it's going to be more reaching out to people who probably aren't as involved with the program that'll be a little bit tougher.
Was it hard to apply for this position, knowing what you and Roger had at North Dakota State was just really starting to you're starting to see the fruits of the labor? A couple All-Americans. North Dakota State's been nationally ranked in terms of dual meets. I mean, how hard of a decision was it, not just to apply, but when you got the offer to leave?
Absolutely. Obviously I'm coaching with one of my good friends from college. Fargo's a great community. North Dakota State's been a great place to work, and it really is hard to go, and it was a hard decision to make, but, at the end of the day, it is a pretty special place down there in Bakersfield, I believe that, and it is a very big opportunity, so it was definitely hard to really not jump all over it.
Where do you think Bakersfield can be in the landscape of the Pac-12? I mean, it's only 6 teams right now, but you've had the influence of Zeke Jones with those monster recruits at Arizona State. We've already talked about Cerritos at Cal Poly, and then the changes at Boise State and the programs at Oregon State. Jason Brelli doing a great job at Stanford. But when you look at the Pac-12 and where Bakersfield can be, as granted, it's a member of, I believe, the WAC in all sports, and then an affiliate of the Pac-12. Mostly California kids, scholarship options you're not really going to be pulling kids, say, from North Dakota, Minnesota to come to Bakersfield. But what are some things that you're going to have to do to make CSU Bakersfield competitive in the Pac-12?
Yeah, well, for one, they're coming off a pretty good year last year. And I think last year really shows that they can be competitive and they can do very well. And really it's going to come down to recruiting kids that are going to excel in that program and kids that are going to fit the mold and really develop on it. And, I don't know if there's any one thing, but a lot of it, and it's probably pretty obvious, but it is going to be recruiting and then getting guys that can compete and be successful there.
Yeah, and you bring it up, Mike Mendoza's team did win the Pac-12 dual meet regular season championship, and it doesn't look like the cupboard's bare for you. You're going to have something to work with when you get there, although you don't have a whole lot of time to pick up any last-minute recruits. I mean, so how busy are you going to be maybe working junior nationals in Fargo when you haven't fully moved yet? Be like, hey, I got a spot for you in Bakersfield.
Yeah, that's going to be a a nice advantage. I know I'm heading out to Bakersfield here pretty quick to do some stuff down there, but I'll be back for the junior nationals, and obviously I'll be there to recruit for Bakersfield. So it's kind of nice just being familiar with the tournament and everyone that runs it, and being able to really get that Cal State Bakersfield brand at the biggest tournament in high school wrestling.
So you've been able to recruit California kids to North Dakota for the wintertime. So do you think recruiting California kids to stay at Bakersfield is going to be more difficult or less difficult?
I sure hope it's less difficult. It's kind of funny, when I was asked if people have asked me, how do you think you'll do recruiting California guys? Well, but I convinced them to come out to Fargo, so I'm guessing it's going to be a lot better.
When we talk about goals, you really got a short lead on when you take over the program and get things rolling for 2016, 2017. But what are your year one goals for the program, and then what are your 3 to 5 year goals?
For that first year, I think I really just want to get myself integrated into the program. Really, and a few things I'm thinking. Maybe I'm even thinking a little bit sooner than a full year right now. I want to get there. I want to be able to meet with the team and meet with the guys there. I want to be able to meet with the staff and really make a combined effort on goals. Really evaluate what's there and, make that, make goals with the team and set goals with the coaching staff and set goals with the administration and really try to get everyone on one page and, going towards the same goal and really going in the same direction. I think that's important, but, I think I want to get there and really get to meet with the guys and a few other things I'd really like to get going on is obviously the recruiting and getting out on the road and, really getting Cal State Bakersfield in front of recruits and their families.
Now, as we talk about your coaching career, what are some things when you left the University of Minnesota, you were there for 2 years as administrative assistant, to land the job with Steve Garland at the University of Virginia in the ACC, and Steve had been an assistant under Rob Cole at Cornell. And what are some things that you picked up from living on the East Coast that you kind of had an eye-opening experience with maybe styles of coaching, how they handle athletes? I mean, what are some things you picked up from Coach Garland in your tenure at UVA?
Yeah, well, I learned a ton. Really, when I was at Minnesota, I was an administrative assistant. I was there more training. I was trying to compete internationally and do all those things. But going out to UVA with Steve was really my first full-time job, and I learned really everything. When I was in Minnesota, I wasn't so much, involved on a lot of the coaching stuff behind the scenes. I was on the mats, but I get out there with Steve, and I'm recruiting. I'm doing a lot of the administrative stuff there, and probably the biggest thing I learned from Steve, if anything, it was the recruiting. I think he's a great recruiter. I learned the system he uses, and it's something that I use heavily here at North Dakota State, and something that I probably will always, try to implement wherever I go. So it's probably recruiting and just really a lot of it was just really starting to develop myself as a coach.
You worked with Jay Robinson as an athlete, and now obviously his name's been in the news with what's been going on with the program situation. What are some things that you learned from Jay coming in as you said, a 17-year-old college freshman that made you realize this guy's a little different? He's got an old school approach to things. Yeah,
for one, Jay's one of the greatest guys I know. He just has been still up to this day phenomenal with everything I've always asked. If I needed help, he's been a guy that's been there and all that good stuff. But, it was kind of funny. I was getting recruited and I was, looking at a couple other places. But, Jay, it really was that old school approach where Jay just sat me down, looked me in the eye and was like, this is what it is. And, I liked it. I really responded to that type of coaching. So, he's a very unique guy, and obviously you always hear a lot about him wherever you go. But as far as, on the coaching end, he's always been a guy that I always liked his leadership.
How difficult is it for you and Roger and other guys that wrestle for Jay to watch this situation unfold and sit there and have a perspective that, you know, we don't see if we're just consuming this basically from the media or the newspaper reports?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when you know a guy that well and a guy that's always been great to you, and to kind of see, you know, things that are being said about him, and you know, you want to always say how he's always been with you and how he's always dealt with you in your relationship with them. And, you know, it seems to be just about everyone's experience that, you know, he is a great guy and he's always done great things for people. And, you know, to see the stuff that, you know, kind of has been flying around, I guess you can say, it's tough, you know, it's unfortunate.
I mean, if you had to say one character thing about Jay and what he's done for your life, what would you say if somebody called you as a character witness? Now I'm going hypothetically here. I'm just curious. It's like, so we now call Manny Rivera as a character witness. What's one thing that Jay did for you that nobody really kind of understands, and something that he does for his wrestlers is be like, you know what? That's something you've seen few coaches do in your career in wrestling.
You know, I think the main thing with me and Jay, as one, he cared about me enough to hold me to a high standard. You know, I think it probably could have been easier at times for him to just kind of not pay attention to me. But no matter where I was in my career, he always held me to a high standard and expected a lot from me. And you know, maybe it wasn't something I liked at the time, but looking back and now as I get into coaching, I realize he really cared about my development. You know, on and off the mat, and you know, it's one of those things that you hear a lot of people say it, but the way he does it, he really holds you to a high standard. He'll call you out and make sure you're doing your best.
One thing we haven't discussed yet is this is something that's always kind of, you know, I've kind of been interested in, but we really haven't really gone into it too deeply. Is let's talk about this Mexico experiment with Freestyle International Wrestling. You represented Mexico for a short time, and what was the idea behind that and getting international competition? I mean, just talk about the whole Mexico thing.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. So a few things. I'll start out here on how it kind of evolved.
Didn't they try to bring in a bunch of ringers, a bunch of people from the States that had, you know, you were one of those guys. I mean, I know, I think, was it Izzy Silva was another one? I mean, there was like, you looked at it and be like, man, on paper, Team Mexico can be solid.
Yeah, so Izzy, myself, Jesse Ruiz was out there, a few other guys, and and that's kind of how it evolved. I think the first guy that was out there involved in it was Izzy Silva, and you know, he's kind of that was kind of the connection for me to getting involved with it myself, and really, you know, I was approached. I didn't know the guy at the time, and he came out and was just like, "Here's what I'm trying to do. You know, you're one of the guys I want to help sponsor for this and try this." And you know, I kind of thought about it, and at the time I was training with Minnesota as a Storm, and you know, I kind of sounded like it would be a great idea. You know, I still train in Minneapolis, live in Minneapolis, but just kind of be able to fly out and compete whenever I needed to. So it was an interesting experience. I decided to do it. You know, I don't know if it was good or bad, to be honest. At this time, it was kind of right around where I started wrapping up my wrestling career, but it was definitely a good learning experience. I learned a lot, but I mean, you know, in hindsight, maybe I could have stayed and just still competed for a Storm, and things probably would have ended up about the same, but it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, because the Storm has guys, I mean, like Bebeto Yewa representing Cameroon. I mean, he's training with the Storm. I mean, a couple of them, you know, you got a couple guys. I mean, you got, you know, David Habit's training with Cliff Keen, and he's Slovenian, Slovakian, one of the two. I don't even know. Andy Robat's going to kill me for that. But anyway, as we move on to the more fun part of the show, I got some blast questions, 10, maybe more questions in 90 seconds. Manny, are you ready for the challenge?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, it should be good.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Question 1, the best match you've ever watched.
Best match I've ever watched. Holy smokes, let me think here. Probably a little biased. Jason Nash, Dan Dennis.
I won the Olympic gold. Tonight, what are you having for dinner?
Lasagna.
Best wrestler people don't talk about.
Best wrestler people don't talk about. Let me think. That one is a tough one for me. I really got to take a pass on that one. All right, okay, let's come back to that one.
All-time favorite flavor of Gatorade?
It doesn't matter. When you're thirsty, they all taste the same.
Who's your best roommate ever?
Best roommate ever? Oh, shoot. That's a tough one, too. I've lived with a bunch of guys. Probably get me in trouble with a few of them, but I think the first time I moved out of the dorms into a house with Gabe Dredge, Justin Bronson, Mitch Coolman. That was a fun time.
Who's your favorite international wrestler?
Current or ever?
Ever.
Ever, Isaac Kudakov.
All right, current.
Current, Bones Rodriguez.
All right. You win the Powerball. What's the first college wrestling program you're going to start?
Win the Powerball. I'm torn here. I can just go straight home and maybe Cal State LA, or maybe want to go somewhere closer to the beach, maybe like a Pepperdine or something.
Ooh, I like Pepperdine. I like that one.
Yeah.
We could go to Malibu.
Yeah.
Why not?
Right, there you go.
I mean,
so
the waves. I mean,
there.
yeah, Pepperdine. I got to write that on my list of places to start programs.
Yeah, Pepperdine would be awesome. I considered that one having wrestling before.
Cerritos doesn't want to hear that because right now Cal Poly's kind of got that line on the West Coast beach thing. But, that Malibu would just crush that. Anyway, the best JV guy on your high school team.
Nicholas Loicano.
Favorite restaurant on the planet?
Favorite restaurant on the planet. Well, I don't know if there's one favorite one, but I'm excited to get back to Bakersfield and just get those little mom-and-pop Mexican food places.
So it's not the Buffalo Wild Wings across from the Dome?
Oh, no, not even close.
Okay. All right, and last question. What is your spirit animal?
Dang, I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, going deep here. Getting deep into the mind.
Spirit animal. Let's say shoot. That's a tough one too. Too many good ones.
It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna call it a walleye. Your spirit animal's a walleye. How's that?
Walleye.
They fight and they got a lot of teeth. I don't know.
I can do a walleye.
I'm drawing a blank here. Actually, one follow up. Lakers or Clippers?
Oh, Lakers.
Okay, yeah.
Lakers, Kings, Dodgers, and that's really the main ones there.
Yeah, because there is no. Are you going to adopt the Rams now that when they or who's coming back?
Yeah,
Are the Rams coming back?
Oh yeah, Rams. I'll definitely go get a Rams hat or jersey or something. They're back in L.A. Absolutely.
That's how much I'm paying attention to pro sports these days. It's like, wait a minute, are they? Which ones? Where are they going? Because they were there, then they came back, and yeah. Anyway, all right, Manny. Last words we got for Bakersfield Nation. Those out there paying attention to your career from Minnesota, North Dakota. I mean, what can they look forward to from Roadrunner Wrestling here in the future?
Well, one, I really want to thank everyone that's been there for me too. I'm excited to get out there and really, the thing I'm looking to do there is just create an environment that's exciting to watch, put a team out there that's fun to watch, that scores points, and hopefully that's something that attracts people and wants to get them in the seats and following our team.
So, yeah, we mentioned Fargo. There's not really quite a theme here, but Manny's finishing up his career in Fargo, and as any wrestling person knows, you don't really ever finish things in Fargo. You just end up back there. This will be my 18th year coming up for the USA Wrestling Cadet and Junior Nationals. Been going since 1999. Yeah, I always have to count on my fingers to make sure. I was like, wait, I started in 99. It's only 16. Yeah, anyway. As I record this, it's July 7th. No baby yet. Baby girl number 2 is now 1 day over. So, who knows when said arrival will come and if it's going to infringe on 18 years of Fargo in a row. The last one, Lucy, was actually due July 15th. I was all set to miss in 2012. She came a few weeks early, and, my streak continued. Anyway, why am I talking about Fargo? Well, I have produced a one-of-a-kind digital resource. This is the Mad Talk Online Cadet and Junior Nationals Almanac. This is for sale at madtalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. That's one word, Fargo Guide, all lowercase. For $20, you can get access and every single All-American from 1971. Now, here's some things that I've added to this. I've spent years compiling this. Last year was the first year I marketed this. Now, if you have already bought this through Gumroad, you already get the updates. Just make sure you check your email because I have put out 7 revisions to this almanac in the last year. What it is whenever I make a new change, and I'm not going to charge you for just the annual addition to the updates. Like, okay, you've got last year's book, and I'm going to charge you another $20 just for last year's stats that you can get on Track Wrestling. I'm not going to do that. This is a complete digital resource guide. $20 at madtalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. I have added probably 30 more pages from last year. Last year was 200. Actually, my math stinks. It's actually 22 pages. But I've added all the results from 15. But then I've added the team breakdowns. I've done unofficial team scoring. Now, the team scoring's only been official for about 10 years. Well, I went through using the current team scoring method and calculated the team scores dating back to 1971. Every single wrestler is now accounted for. Last year, I had 2 wrestlers that were missing. One guy's now from Indiana and the other guy's from, I think, New York. So got that taken care of. Thousands of athletes. So it's by year, it's by style, and each state has each one of its All-Americans listed. And that includes states that don't even go to Fargo anymore, like, Vermont really doesn't send a team anymore. They all go with Massachusetts. So every state and by style. So you can say, hey, who's got the most All-Americans in cadet freestyle? Boom, it'll tell you. It'll go year by year. It has the states. It has so much stuff in here year by year. And you go back and look at these brackets and how awesome they are. Well, I got to say that you look at the results. I got to say the brackets are not in there. The finals results are not in there yet. This is something that it's 241 pages with just the notable stats and facts. Records are in there. Who's got the most national championships? Who's doubled up in Fargo the most? There's so much stuff in here. One-time fee of $20 at madtalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. So if I find something that's updated and somebody, say Gene Lee from Illinois, comes over and goes, hey, I found an error here, I'll make that correction. I'll automatically save it. I will re-upload a new file, and you will get it automatically. You do not have to buy future options. So state chair people from USA Wrestling, this is a good thing to have. Boom. So madtalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. That is the almanac. And you know what? Here's another thing that I like to use this thing for. Yeah, I was an All-American in Fargo. Really? What year? Oh, so-and-so. What'd you place? Okay. You can look it up. I love, it's something, I don't like to lie about. My wrestling accomplishments were so bad. They were, you could put them all on a Post-it note. I mean, I make that joke, but that's actually pretty truthful. So when I hear somebody like, I'll be at I wrestled. Oh, yeah, you ever go to Fargo? Yeah. I was like third. No, you weren't. It's all because I've got a fuck. I love doing that. It's kind of a dick move in some respects. But don't lie about wrestling, man. Don't lie about your wrestling. Don't walk around telling people you're an All-American and you place 9th. Yeah, really, bro. There is not a 9th place. You guys know who I'm talking about. Anyway, that's my pitch today. Manny Rivera, good guy. I'm sure I'll have wings with him at B-Dubs and a game of pool or foosball at the turf before he heads out to Bakersfield. But that's what I got for you today. Again, here's the update. Buy the Fargo Guide at madtalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. 2 patrons of this program. Guess what? Your packages are going out today. Yeah, as I record this, I am going to head to the post office, and not the crappy post office in New Brighton with one guy who really just hates his job. I'm going to go over to Columbia Heights and ship these things out. So the first batch of 12. So those of you who are at the patron level with the draft glass and the t-shirt, you're going to be getting your stuff today. So that and above. If you're just on the $5 level, I've got to hold off. I ran out of stickers. I had to buy some more stickers. They should be here before I go to Fargo. So the first batch for you patrons. And first of all, if you're wondering what the heck am I talking about? Well, guess what? Some of these people are getting a package with, got some Matt Talk stickers. They got some t-shirts. They got a hat. They got a pint glass. Yeah, you can get that stuff MadTalkOnline.com/join the team. Hit the right level of patronage, and you too can receive a box from me with cool stuff in it. These t-shirts are like that really soft, I don't want to say they're like another company's soft tee fit, but let's just say Cliff Fretwell, Stephanie Fretwell, the group at Compound, sponsoring this program hardcore with some great gear. So check that out. You could just MadTalkOnline.com/join the team. Only way to get them. Only way to get them, folks. Pint glass, which you can fill with your favorite sudsy beverage. I might even get turf-style mugs. I don't know. Maybe that's next year, but I'm going to change this up. So MadTalkOnline.com/join the team. You can find out how you can support this program by picking up, just a small monthly contribution, and then you get cool stuff. And I've been talking about this cool stuff for months. Well, guess what? It's finally going in the mail. And what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, buy the almanac, contribute, rate and review on iTunes. If this is your first time listening and you're this far into the show, man, you must like wrestling. MadTalkOnline.com/get short time. I'm also going to be changing up the intro. So those of you who are in the Mad Talk Online private Facebook group, which you can only get to through our levels of patronage at MadTalkOnline.com/join the team, picking new intro music. So I heard my theme song on a YouTube video. I'm like, time to change it. It went about a year before I heard it. But anyway, I'll be looking out for your feedback there. So I'd like to thank you for listening. Thanks for the feedback on Royce Alger. Wow, what a great episode that was. We're going to have to revisit with old Roy Boy here soon. But great episode. Big props to Manny Rivera for coming on the program. We'll see you soon. Next stop, I don't know. Depending on the baby, I might not have a show next week because, again, depends. Depends, diapers, same difference anyway. I'm Jason Bryant. I've got plenty of time to change diapers, and you've always got time for short time. Stick around for the dog. The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by Flips Wrestling. Share your attitude and be heard at FlipsWrestling.com.
That's a tough one. Sorry about that.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MadTalkOnline.com.